Thank you, Zoe, for grant me this awesome opportunity to to have a little chit chat with you about what has been going on with your team, Bitfinex, and what's the next step of RGB protocols, and how do we a bit more general about overall stuff. Just do a little. Why don't you say hi and make a like a little introduction of yourself for the audience?
Sure. First of all, thank you for inviting me. My name is Zoe, and I'm a developer of the Bitfinex RGB team since 2022. I've started collaborating to RGB since 2019, mostly by participating to calls and meetings where we redesign some aspects of the protocol, and also by doing some small code contributions. During the last 2 years, Bitfinex gave me the opportunity to work full-time on RGB. And the goal of our team is helping making RGB production ready. And it does this by working on documentation, reviewing PRs, writing tests, and implementing software to help developers building RGB-enabled applications.
Yeah, that was a perfect introduction. I saw our Bitfinex team was working on some of the RGB tools, and the IRS wallet, right? If I correct,
Yeah.
if I'm
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah. The most of the software we do is mostly to help other developers. So that's why we call them RGB tools. Also, Iris Wallet, for example, is there mostly to showcase how you can do an RGB enabled wallet, and to show that with RGB Lib, this library we've implemented, is quite easy to do. So you do not need to understand the protocol into detail.
Yes. Because the RGB is something really complexity other than different Bitcoin scalable solutions, right? It's really different.
It's very complex, especially for people coming from other token protocols, because it has totally different concepts, and so yeah, it can be hard to grasp at the beginning. But yeah, you don't with the tools we are providing, you don't need to be so aware of the protocol. You just need to know some basic concepts, and you can already start developing interesting applications.
Why don't you walk through with us about a little just like what is RGB protocol in some simple terms? I know because I have interviewed a lot of RGB developers, but it seems they have a little different angle of describing what is RGB. So from your standpoint of view, what is RGB?
Yeah, RGB is many things depending on who you ask the question to. So, well, it's a protocol, of course, and I think the main purpose, the reason it started, it was because we needed a good token protocol, like a protocol to do assets that was working on a good chain, so on Bitcoin, of course. And so this is why RGB started. Then during the years, it became much more than just a protocol to issue contracts, because RGB leverages the concepts of client-side validation, single-use seals that they allow to do kind of like smart contracts. So you can, for example, have NFTs on Bitcoin with RGB. You could do identity tokens or very cool things. But I believe the main purpose of RGB will remain having tokens, and of course also a stable coin or some stable coins. Yeah.
How's the progress of RGB 21, which the NFT. And I saw Bitmask was doing stuff based on that, but it just I haven't heard any news or updates from them for quite a while.
Yeah, currently RGB is trying to get production ready. So we are doing very high intensity tests. For example, we are also now doing stress tests to understand how in the future RGB can work if, for example, client-side data could become very big. So how wallets can handle that, and how the validation speed would change in the future. So we need to be sure that RGB can work for several years without issues. And of course that there are no security vulnerabilities, bugs, consensus issues, because it will have tokens will have a real monetary value, so we cannot risk going out with something that's not 100% ready and tested. So I don't have an estimation because in software you cannot predict some things, like issues can come out of the blue, and so yeah, it's hard to say when RGB will be ready for mainnet, but I would say we are working hard to get there. So I hope it will be soon.
I just catch the word, like you said, do some stress testing about client-side validation.
Stress
because
tests.
yeah, it's worry about it's too much on the end of wallet to to absorbing it. So my question is, because it seems like a feasible plan, but my question is, do you think custodian plan would also work on RGB? Because client, like a pure client-side validation method may not work fully functional without partially custodian solution. So what's this is just an add-on question, but just came from your answers. So
yeah, sure. Well, I think custodial solutions will be there, and for many users they will make sense. As always, you can always implement custodial solutions to be not as bad. So you can, for example, delegate the validation of the consignment to a centralized service. You would lose privacy, but they couldn't steal your assets. So there are ways to do this without making it totally insecure or making users putting their assets at risk.
yes. So can I put this way? It is all decided by the users or the market. If we want to push forward a more a partially custodian solution, if the user were willing to, I would say, jeopardize their privacy for for convenience, they can do it. So right.
Yeah, sure. Everything on RGB is open sourced, and everyone can build whatever application they want. So the users and the market will decide, will make explicit what are their necessities, and for sure someone will hear those users and build software for those necessities.
Awesome. Yeah, let's just move on to a little not too heavy question about what's the practical use of RGB protocol, because yeah, let's say RGB was once considered as a token issuing protocol, but right now it's kind of elevating to a more smart contract, Bitcoin native smart contract solution. So in a real world sense, how can we best utilize RGB?
Well, I think RGB should be used in every application that deals with real monetary value. So, for example, in the context of a game, it might have less sense because maybe in a game, you know, I have tokens representing something that's not real and that has no value. But wherever we need censorship resistance and privacy, RGB should be used because they are the main things that RGB is built on. We value these things very much, and RGB doesn't do compromises for these things.
So let's say if RGB integrates with hardware, I don't know, because Gideon was like, when I first interviewed with Gideon, Gideon showed me a music tape that can put different music onto one tape, and that music tape connected to, you know, through RGB to Bitcoin blockchain. So I think I found that it's very interesting. We have some practical uses instead of just you know, making a shitcoin and doing some meaningless DeFi. Because Bitcoin was not supposed to do all sorts of, you know, on-chain, I would say on-chain financial activities. It was meant for to solve real problems and do real either for payments or privacy. So I'm still need some inspirations, you know, for what is the practical use of RGB if that integrates with hardware devices.
Well, it's RGB is still in early phases, so it's hard to know where and how it will be used. The main important thing is it's very extensible, and this will allow developers to implement very interesting things that we cannot even imagine right now.
Can you give us some hints or you know, just widen our horizon about, you know, what can RGB do in practical uses?
Several things. It's hard to name something specific because right now for example, our team is more concentrated on doing assets. Yeah, I'm not sure what could be the purpose. I know that the LMPB Standard Association has several ideas on how RGB can be used to do interesting things. But yeah, still nothing has been developed outside of tokens, so and NFTs. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, we're still on the beginning of the RGB road. I mean, we still have a long way to go. You know, I was once told, you know, not once told, I was told by my communities that, you know, different wallets, they're complaining about incompatibility because different wallets have some sort of issues. You know, BitLight wallet was issuing some test RGB20 assets, and it cannot be seen at the Bitmask wallet, and etc. etc. So it's kind of like, do you think this issue can be resolved in the future, or I mean, it's
yeah, of course it could be. Yeah, it's these incompatibilities is just a temporary situation where every wallet team developing wallet on RGB is has different priorities. So right now, probably we are all using different RGB versions, and on every version there are maybe some consensus changes that make the assets incompatible. But yeah, the main goal here is to have wallets interoperable, and so we will soon have wallets being able to transfer assets between each other.
This is part of what I don't really understand. The question is how do you other wallet know that users data without touching or infringing the user's privacy?
Okay, so here we are talking about two different types of compatibility. One thing is being able to put your own mnemonic to another wallet. That will probably be possible in the future with some collaboration between wallets. But it's a totally different matter what is compatibility in the sense of being able to send an asset between different wallets. So that will definitely be possible, while instead using the same mnemonic on different RGB wallets will probably never be possible, only if the developers collaborate, but I don't know if that will ever happen. But yeah, the protocol it's one, and the way you store the client-side validation data doesn't affect the data itself. So it will be definitely possible to transfer assets between different wallets.
So I'm just to do a little summary here. So transfer assets, RGB assets from different wallet is feasible, but issuing assets from the wallet itself, it cannot it cannot compatible, because RGB is a client-side data. Like, I mean, it's a client-side data, so it cannot compatible with other I would say wallet entrants, right?
No, so you can issue an asset on whatever wallet you want, and assuming they are using the same RGB version, the asset will be the same, and it will be possible to transfer it between different wallets. The thing it will be hard to be possible is having being able to switch between different wallets. So yeah, let's say I take my mnemonic from the Bitmask wallet, I put it into Iris, and expect to have automatically all my client-side data. It doesn't work like that. You can develop a software that migrates your data from Bitmask to Iris to whatever wallet you want, but yeah, some dedicated software needs to be implemented to migrate your data between different wallets. But you can simply, for example, you're using Bitmask, and you want to start using Iris. You can create a new wallet on Iris, send all the RGB assets there, and that's all. That's a way to migrate your wallet.
Yeah, I mean, unless wallets are they're sharing data with each other. Otherwise, it cannot, you cannot log in one account and inspect it, your assets showing on another account, right? I get that.
Yeah, well, because data is handled by RGB itself. So there is, for example, the consignment, that is the file used to share this client-side side data, and this is a format, consensus format that is the same between all the wallets. But the thing is how the wallet stores the data. That is a choice of the wallet developers, and so you cannot simply take your mnemonic, as I was saying before, and put it in another wallet and expect the data to be there. The data is on the client, so it needs to be transferred. But the format eventually it's the same. But for example, yeah, as you were saying before, Bitmask stores it on some servers, encrypting it with Carbonado. we, for example, keep the data in the device itself. And
so
other wallets could do this differently.
So it's a partially custodian solution because you have to ensure both users are online to transfer the consignment. Otherwise, it cannot happen, right?
Yeah, well, to transfer assets, yeah, you kind of need the wallets to be online. But for example, so the way we transfer the consignment, also that is a choice of the wallet developers. Our team implemented what we call the RGB proxy, which is like a simple service that allows users to upload a consignment file and then other users to download it. And in this way, you don't the parties don't need to be online at the exact same moments, because there's this service which is online. So the sender goes online, posts the consignment, and then in a later moment, the receiver can go online and retrieve the consignment.
Yeah, let's move on to the next question because I'm really interested to know. Because when I explain RGB smart contract to some ordinary people, and they seem really confusing about, because RGB contract was essentially based on the UTXO mechanism, the UTXO model. So it's more of a DAG kind of stuff, and it's not have a shared global state similar to the Ethereum, the overall Ethereum mechanism. So if there is not a global state for RGB smart contract, we cannot interacting between contracts and contracts.
In RGB, global state is really different from what Ethereum users are used to. So first of all, you cannot have like an explorer showing where RGB assets are, because only owners of the asset know where the assets are, and they know it only for the chain of transfers that brought the assets to them. So they cannot have only a partial view of where the assets are. And yes, speaking about global state in the sense of having like a contract name that could be changed, or like a global view of the contract, we managed to find a solution for that. It's quite tricky because being client-side data, you cannot do it the same way Ethereum does. But yeah, this solution allows to rename a contract, inflating it, or doing some other stuff that has a global impact on the contract itself. And this is possible by defining a set of UTXOs that give rights to do changes to the contract. And these UTXOs need to be defined when issuing the contract, and they need to be checked by the wallet to detect if they're spent, and meaning a change on the contract happened. And also in the consignment, there is some space for metadata, for example, the ticker, name, details, or other similar things. So also that's a way to have some global shared data. While instead, when we speak about media files, there are ways, for example, to embed some bytes directly into the consignment. For example, for the UDA contract, we can embed up to 65 kilobytes of data. But this will mostly be like previews of an attachment that will not be shared within the consignment. So in case of assets representing big media files, the contract will commit to an hash of the file, and the file itself will be shared through other channels, whatever the channel the users want to use. Use the consignment. This consignment is the way you transfer client-side data. So through the consignment, you can check that the data that you're receiving is committed into the UTXO. because the thing you find that the hash you have in the operator output or in the tuple tree, it's a hash of the data that's represented by the consignment itself. So you can verify that the client-side data that you're receiving is actually what is being committed into the UTXO.
Whom you be sending those consignment?
Between parties that are sending. Sorry?
You cannot sending the consignment to everyone because you want a state. Like if you want to inform them there is a transitional state has been changed.
I'm not sure I got the question, sorry.
So when you sending the consignment to one person or to multi parties, because you want to inform that there's a transitional state has been changed, right? So they know, okay, the smart contract, you know, kind of altered an existing state to a new state.
No, it's possible to share the consignment with everybody. We can also post it on a website, and everyone can check and validate the data. Also, the UTXOs are public, so there's also already a solution for these use cases.
So shooting a consignment onto a website so everyone can see the consignment. Everyone can see, you know, the ownership of that typical UTXO has been examined onto the website, right? Okay, I see.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that could be a solution. Yes, that could be a solution. It's a little interesting because it's very different from the Ethereum standard protocol, and yeah, definitely, yeah. Let's move on to the next question. What is the current stage of integrating the Lightning Network and RGB, and how RGB assets can be, you know, be transmitted within the Lightning Network? This is probably the one of the best interesting question I wanted to ask.
Well, at the protocol level, our team found a way to use RGB on Lightning Network, and it does that by using operate first as a commitment scheme. And at the implementation level, there's only one software implementing this, which is RLN. A Lightning Network node we implemented by using RGB lib and a fork of LDK. The software is not ready to be used on mainnet, and I don't have an estimation time in this regard, but I can say that, in my opinion, there's still quite work to do. In this space, we need more people and users trying RGBs and our software and provide feedback and open issue. There's also another way to implement RGB on the Lightning Network, which has been found out by the LMPVP Standards Association, and that mechanism uses Taproot first as a commitment scheme. But since Lightning Network nodes haven't switched to Taproot yet, it's hard to know when it will make sense to implement a node using that protocol. And to give a simple explanation on how we are currently sending RGB assets within the Lightning Network, I would say an RGB channel is just like a normal channel where every transaction, like the channel opening one, the commitment transactions, and the closing transaction, have an extra output containing an operator, which redistributes assets between the different outputs of the transaction itself. So very little changes have we have made very little changes to the normal standard protocol in order to allow RGB.
What about in-channel transmitting RGB assets? I'm not fully understand.
Speaking about Lightning Network, you don't even need to transfer consignments between parties. because as a normal channel update happens where both parties construct 2 commitment transactions at every channel update, the same happens when the channel is RGB enabled. So both parties are able to, let's say, color the commitment transactions, and so they don't need to exchange data other than the RGB amount they want to send across the channel. Okay, so you know how a commitment transaction works, right? It's a transaction that spans the channel opening transaction, which has a multi-signature output, okay? And normally in a vanilla channel, the commitment transaction redistributes the Bitcoin of the channel opening TX between 2 outputs, each one of the 2 counterparties of the channel.
Yeah.
In an RGB channel, we just add another output with an appear turn, and the appear turn is a hash saying that a certain amount of assets go to the output that goes to one of the parties of the channel, and another part of the RGB amount goes to the other party of the channel.
Yeah.
You basically use this feature of RGB called witness transfer, which allows to send assets to the outputs of the transaction that is sending the asset.
Okay, I see. Okay, I see. The last question was, I have a lot of complaining about the current technical documentation because it's not fully updated. So how can we best onboard developers?
Yeah, well, our team is helping updating this documentation because we believe that exhaustive, accessible, and up-to-date documentation is very important. And as a matter of fact, our team sponsored the creation of the documentation that you can find on rgb.info, which we hope will become a good entry point for users that want to learn more about the protocol. In the meantime, wallet developers that are interested in the protocol can reach out to the LMPP standards associations or to the other existing teams that are working on RGB in order to ask for support. Furthermore, as I was saying before, there is RGB, which is this Rust library, which also has bindings for many languages like Swift, Kotlin, Python, Node.js, and other languages. That allows developers to implement RGB-enabled applications without needing to understand the protocol in detail.